very fraudy. Dude, I text Angelo Cataldi, and I asked him during this holiday time. And folks, by the way, every single time he comes on, his numbers just blow up. You heard the two different coaches on with us earlier on Monday, Jimmy Johnson and Tony Dungy. What had difference of opinions? By the way, we'll get to all your super chats, I promise you. They had different opinions of what the team looks like, and Nick Sirianni. I don't know how this guy's 42-19. I mean, it's a dumbass comment. I get it. I just don't know. When I watch him game manage, I go, okay, so he took the points off the board, and he did what? He gave him another opportunity for 2 possessions to get a first down. I mean, I'm like, why didn't you just take the penalty? This was just in the Rams game. Let's get to our friend. By the way, make sure you check out his fabulous blog, his sensational book. It's also on audio. He is our friend, Angelo Cataldi. And Angelo, happy holidays to you and your family, my friend.
The same to you, Dan, and yours. I think what we're witnessing in Eagle Land this year is a Thanksgiving miracle. Team is 9-2. The coach still has no idea what he's doing. This is new territory even for me. I've ripped coaches my whole life. I've never liked coaches or managers. But this guy, all right, I just want to recreate this for you there because I'm not sure you heard this. You were probably watching on NBC's coverage, which was actually not as bad as usual. Chris Collinsworth can't handle. So I put Merrill Reese on. He's 81 years old. There's a holding penalty. It's going to be a 3rd and 13, and Merrill's going, Mike, this is good for the Eagles. It's good. Mike, did he turn down the penalty? Wait a minute. The offense is staying on the field. They're going to go for it on 4th and 3 because Nick turned down the penalty. And then in something I've never seen this. He goes back to the refs and goes, oh, wait, I didn't know they were going to stay on our offense. I'll take the penalty. And they gave it to him. Right? And heads were exploding everywhere. Like, Merrill Reed's 81 years old. Instantaneously, he know you have to take the penalty. And the coach didn't know. He's 7 straight wins and 9-2. It's a miracle. It can't be possible. How is this possible? Guy, he doesn't coach the offense, defense, or special team. He's got one thing to do. He doesn't even know how to do it. And he's 9-2. He's 42-19. It's a miracle. There is a God.
I don't know how he's this. Angelo, who was that Phillies manager you guys had that one they blew out because he stunk so bad, making in-game decisions? Who was that? Was it Pat Corrales?
Well, that was 40 years ago. All right. That's when I first came to town. But Gabe Kapler was another stunad. Wow, is he a beauty? All right. But the thing is, they didn't win 2/3 of their games. They weren't dominant. Whatever. I'm going to find out what church Nick Sirianni is going to, and I'm going to get religious again. Because seriously, in the Philadelphia sports, nobody has ever been this clueless and this successful. This is new territory for everybody. It's amazing.
I don't know how to cover the guy because I see all these bonehead decisions. I mean, there is no doubt this roster covers for the coach's incompetence that he has in every game that he coaches. I mean, I mean, maybe this is why the Eagles have always changed out their coaches, because they don't really believe in the head guy that much because they think they're interchangeable. But do you believe that he costs them when it matters the most when they get to the postseason?
Well, that remains to be seen. Last year when they collapsed, he didn't know what to do. So they just flopped to the end of the season. This year, and of course, if you want to see some brilliant work, you look now you get to see this. This is a bigger picture now with 11 games played. What Harry Roseman did in the offseason is mind-boggling. The 2 defensive backs he got. Becton now on the line. The one hole in the line, he plugged that up very well. And, of course, Barkley. the signing of Barkley could become one of the greatest free agent signings in sports history.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of numbers Barkley is putting up. And I think inadvertently that Howie Roseman dick-proofed the Eagles. Like, Nick can't screw it up. He's done everything he can. He can't screw it up. And Barkley, this is all I want to say about Barkley. My son's a Giants fan. I had a long conversation with him today because I'm trying to pick his brain on what it's like to be a Giants fan and to watch what Barkley is doing now for the Eagles. And he said, how is the GM still there?
I don't know.
The GM signed Daniel Jones to $160 million, whatever the hell that was. And then 2 years later, caught him. Jones today signed with the Vikings, all right? So, and then he let Barkley go. He didn't know that Barkley was this good if you just put a good line in front of him. He had no idea. He had to watch another team do it. What was Joe Schoen? Is that his name? Joe Schoen?
Joe Schoen,
whatever his name is. Joe Schoen is awful. He may be the worst GM in sports right now. And he had a vote of confidence the other day. Things are happening in sports now, Dan. I'm not computing them well. They're not logical.
Angelo, when I was younger, I hung around the Giant franchise because my uncle was the general manager and a Hall of Famer, Andy Robustelli. And, Wellington Mara, I knew very well. I was setting up cones in the end zone, by the way, when the Eagles would come up to the elbow. And I'm up there and I'm setting them up and this and that. And I was around the Giants organization a lot. And John Mara is a friend of mine. And I got to tell you, I have never seen anything like this in my life. And it is such an indictment on New York. You want to hear something, Angelo? The New York Giants in the last 10 years are 51-101-1 with 2 playoff appearances. And that was with Dave Gettleman and Joe Schoen as the general manager. I don't know if I've ever seen a worse era of football since the Pisarcik era of Giant football that you have where New York right now. How do you let Barkley walk out of the – there's 2 things, Angelo, to this. How do you let Barkley walk out of the building with no compensation or nothing in return? And then how do you not build a team around this guy? And Angelo, I said if the Eagles had drafted him from his first year out of Penn State, he'd be going to Canton. What a wasted career that he had in New York because, Angelo, have you ever seen a more explosive player? Was Shady McCoy this explosive? Was Brian Westbrook this explosive?
No one. He combines everything. He combines speed, moves, power. It's all there. There was a stat. This is the best statistic I have seen this season, if not in 10 years. NBC had this stat. When Barkley was on the Giants, he got 1.4 yards beyond the line of scrimmage on a run play before initial contact. 1.4 in 6 seasons. With the Eagles so far, 2.6. Over a yard more, almost double. And I don't have to tell you, you know the game. The more momentum you have, the more likely you are to break it, which is how he's breaking these big ones. He's got time to see the field. He's got more speed behind him because no one's hit him for 2.6 yards. And the Giants never knew that in order to have a guy that's great, you got to surround him with guys who block, who can do what he's doing. And to his credit, Kellen Moore, I don't think it would have happened with Sirianni. When he was calling plays, he was in love with the pass. Kellen Moore has turned this team over to Barkley and go, here, you control the games. You get 300 yards in offense a game like he did last Sunday night, and we'll do fine. And what we're seeing right now is unbelievable. It's incredible how great Barkley is.
Angelo,
unbelievable.
Help me out on this. When Jeffrey Lurie bought the team, was there an emphasis when they got the team from Bremen that one of the deficiencies that you guys always covered? I remember early when I was a kid, I'd always hear you guys talking about them having the worst O-line in pro football. And it just seems since 2000, Angelo, that place is a factory, whether it's Howard Mudd or it's Jeff Stoutland. That has been an emphasis on developing of the offensive line because, like you said, I think this is the first year, Angelo, that talented O-line. I think Miles Sanders is a fine ball player. I think DeAndre's a fine ball player. But this kid's an exceptional talent that matches the exceptional talent in the offensive line. I mean, was this been one thing you got to give him credit for, the Oxman? Has this been a priority of his?
No, the Eagles' offensive lines have not always been this great, but they have consistently been good or great since Stoutland was there. And he's been there a long time. Jeff Stoutland takes guys. That's why I got to believe, Dan, that he's getting a lot of input on who to draft, who to pick up at free agency. Becton was the scrap heap. You understand? He was the bust of busts with Jets. And they brought him here. He was a tackle. They brought him here, and they handed him to Stoutland. And Stoutland took he's now in the top 10 of right guards in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right? No one ever saw that in him based on his performance with the Jets. That great coaching and great talent evaluation. And I'm not sure there's a better guy in the league than Jeff Stoutland at that. So can you imagine they replaced Jason Kelce, a legend, a Hall of Famer, with Cam, what's his name? And they're not losing anything at that position.
I think it's actually an upgrade this year, Angelo, because he's younger.
No. What are the odds you can do that?
No.
Now, I'm not saying Howie's not good at evaluating that, but Stoutland has been the number one factor at the success of that line. And that line this year is as good as it's ever been. Ever.
Angelo, this last week obviously was a devastating loss when you lose Brandon Graham. Now they're kind of thin at the edge. You go into a team that attacks the edge, two guys in Lamar and Derrick Henry. That's going to be something to keep an eye on for this game this weekend here. But just give me your overall thoughts here on the loss of Brandon Graham, who, by the way, I thought he was destroying the Rams. They couldn't block him Sunday night. He was all over the place, but that's a pretty big loss, them losing him. 37 years old, he was playing like he was 27.
He's a remarkable story. He really is. And he has been a remarkable story this is his 15th season with the Eagles. And from the time they drafted him in the first round to now, he was a bust for a few years. Then I think, he started to get a little better coaching, and then he became a Super Bowl hero. And now at this age and this far into his career, he's dominant. He was dominant on Sunday night. How is that possible? And he was this season their best edge rusher. And he wasn't taking that many snaps, but he was in the game. He was affecting the outcome of the game. This is one where Howie Roseman, he may lose a little bit of all the praise I just gave him in that he didn't see the value of keeping Hassan Reddick for another year. And Reddick is better than any of them, including Graham. I don't know, he should have never had that layoff. He's not the same player at the moment.
That's a great take, Angelo. That's a great take, Angelo, that the loss, not only with production when it came to us on Reddick, but now the injury factor and all that, and plus the failure of Huff, you're dead on. That move now is more catastrophic today than it was even when they didn't re-sign him.
Right. And that's just Brandon Graham. I had the privilege of getting to interview him every week for the last 5 years I was at WIP. He is insanely honest, incredibly upbeat, right? When I would lay on some of my negativity, he would find a way to spin it into positivity. What he does in that locker room is also profound. He is a leader. He is a leader with a positive attitude. And besides, I got to know him a little bit. He's also an amazingly great guy. He got it all. He checks all the boxes. To remove him from the field, David said, Sirianni, in a rare moment of intelligence, said, we're going to try to take him with us on the road. We want him with his teammates. So yeah, that's a good idea. You don't replace. I'll make. Why am I doing this? Nostradamus is back. I got a prediction.
Please.
Undaunted by my idiotic 5-win prediction, I predict that this is not the end of Brandon Graham's career, that he will come back again next season because the Eagles love him. He can still play, and I don't think he wants to go out that way. But
Absolutely.
the loss, Dan, you can't calculate the loss because it hurts you in every area, on and off the field. And I hope they can find somebody who will step up, but that's highly unlikely based on the way Graham was playing. Graham was playing out of his mind. What was going on? What was going on in the Rams that no one could block him? He's 37.
He was just getting around the horn so easily, man. I mean, it was like he just got a shot of the fountain of middle age or something, because he was just absolutely dominant in that football game. I have to ask you one thing about Jalen Hurts, and you mentioned Kellen Moore. Since the bye, I added it up here. You tell me how you read this. So they're now averaging 20 passing attempts since the bye, and they're averaging 43 rushing attempts. Now, people would go, it's situation. That's not situational. That's a mentality that you have right now, that you're going into football games that you want to run the ball twice as much as you want to throw the ball. It's limited Hurts in the passing game. And even on the sidelines, you heard the players go, let's get back to our identity in running the football. When they were talking at and wanted to talk to Sirianni about it, they didn't want to throw the ball. You know, you don't pay $51 million, Angelo, to 2 wide receivers. You don't pay $50 million to a quarterback. The owner wants a passing attack. I know you're riding a wave right now, but can you win a Super Bowl when you're not really efficient? You're 26th right now in passing. Can you win a Super Bowl with this style of play?
The 26 doesn't bother me in the least. The answer is yes, you can win a Super Bowl this way. Because here's what else they're limiting. They've been unbelievable at limiting turnovers in the last 4 or 5 games. I mean, when Hurts is only throwing the ball 20 times a game, he's not getting blindsided in the pocket the way he was. They're not stripping the ball away from him. He's not forcing the ball into coverage. All the things he was doing in the first 4 games of the season where they were turning it over, when they just suddenly decided Barkley's going to be the focal point of this offense, they removed most of the mistakes, most of the turnovers. They got the offensive line asserting itself. You know, offensive line, if they had their way, they'd run every play. They don't want to pass block. They want to run block. And it turned them into, it got the potential out of them that I'm not sure anybody has fully exploited the way they do with Barkley in that line. So I wouldn't change a thing. I know eventually A.J. Brown's going to start chirping again because he wants the ball more, but he's still putting up 100-yard game. Somehow he's still doing it. I forgot Devontae Smith was injured last Sunday night. That's how little they needed him. They are, Dan, to me, this is the formula to get the most out of what they have. Really, it's phenomenal to watch. I love the run game. I love controlling the clock. I love knocking the snot out of the opponent. I like the whole physicality of the run game. And it's never been more fun to watch than it is right now.
Okay. That being said, Angelo, I'm writing down, if this team goes 39-17 over the last 3 years and they don't deliver a Super Bowl, would this be as disappointing as the McNabb era if they don't deliver a Super Bowl because you're spending the money? Hey, you and I are always in this room because I'm always looking at the other end of something like this, and I'm finding it here. But Angelo, you spent $200 million the last 2 years, almost $500 million on payroll for your offensive huddle. You've got the most expensive O-line in football. If you don't win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years here, this has to go down as an even bigger failure of a era than McNabb's. Would you not agree if they don't deliver?
it's funny because I just did an in-depth interview on McNabb and his era for Vice TV. I went to Brooklyn last week and I relived the failures of McNabb. And the failures of McNabb, in part, were the fact that he couldn't handle that kind of stress. He wasn't able to. I don't worry about Hurts in that way. But you may not find a person less qualified to answer that question than me, since I already predicted they were going to have a horrible season. All right. But yeah, obviously, if at the end of an era like what you're seeing right now, at the end of this era, if they haven't had another parade, then it failed. Because in our city, that's the ultimate definition of a successful team. Are you going to win a championship? I'll tell you this. This is terrible. I'm saying this in the same year that I made my prediction. Right now, this moment in time, they have as good a chance of winning the Super Bowl as anybody. Look at it. Look at who else is blocking and running the ball the way they are. Who else has all these young guys now on the defense who are playing their asses off, right? Vaughn and the Kobe Dean and the new kids in the defensive secondary, Bijan and Williams. These guys are playing. They're really playing great. And Carter in the middle. Carter's having a great year. It's all there. And the one guy that still can ruin it all is that bozo on the sideline.
I call him the Grinch.
Every time he has to make a decision, it's like Russian roulette. It's like, is this the time we're going to blow our brains out? Because I'm telling you, you have a Porsche and you've got Mr. Magoo driving. That's what's going on right now.
Angelo,
right, so
I think Sirianni is the Grinch that could steal the Eagles Super Bowl. That's who I look. I mean, seriously. I mean, I'm with you. They got everything going correct. And then I look over and I go, oh, shit. They've got Captain Smith, the guy who's sailing the Titanic at the helm. I go, he knows there's an iceberg coming, and still he goes full throttle. And you're doing this. Wait a minute. I know how that movie ends at least. I mean, I don't know how this movie ends.
Hold on. I need a moment to become the host because I want to ask you a question. All right.
Please.
Eagles finish 13-4. Eagles get to, let's say, the NFC Championship game. It's a tight game against the Lions. And Sirianni does something ridiculous like not taking the penalty fourth and 3 last week. And it costs him the game. Can he be fired with a 700 winning percentage? Because I'm telling you, what you're seeing is impossible. You can't have a coach this stupid who is 9-2. It can't. What you're seeing is not possible.
This is what I would do. You know that same broom closet that Howie was in? I would take Nick and make the broom closet going executive assistant to the owner, to the general manager, Nick Sirianni, and I'd put him in that broom closet. I'd look over at Kellen and go, it's your job. Right. Okay. Yeah. And I would hand the job to him because if they get to the NFC title game, Kellen's going to have an opportunity to become a head football coach. And if that guy does one of those buffoon moves in the playoffs, you can't fire him because you know why? The Yachtsman's not going to want to have that look where he fired a guy with a 700 win percentage.
You're right.
So he's going to throw him in the broom closet that Howie was in, the famous broom closet. There's a desk I heard already in there that Howie used. So he could just kind of slip in there. That's what I think they would end up doing.
You know, there's been no one in that. Hey, it worked well for Howie. When he came back out, he was a lot smarter.
Right.
Maybe that broom closet will help Sirianni. Something's got to, because the guy, he has maybe 10 decisions to make in the course of a game. And every one of them, you have no confidence he will do the logical thing. Every one. It's unbelievable how insane he is, and he keeps winning. It's driving me nuts.
I know. Hey, you and I were texting each other, 42-19. How?
How?
I mean, I wouldn't trust this guy to make my turkey tomorrow. I mean, are you kidding me?
How? How is he doing this? It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. I got two more for you here. Angelo,
Yeah.
in all your years covering, the Sixers are 3-13 right now, and they've got arguably one of the absolute most talented players Philadelphia has ever seen. Now, I go back and I look and go, is he Malone? Absolutely not. Wilt and Chet Walker in 68, absolutely nothing remotely close what we're looking at here. And yet Embiid will go down as one of the greatest 7-foot shooters, athletes of all time. In your opinion, should the 76ers move off him in the offseason and try to get as much compensation as they can to try to build the team? Because he's not going to deliver a title. I don't believe.
He's not. That horse may have left the barn. You're not going to get for him what you would have 2 or 3 years ago. Look, there's one other thing this big schnoz I have is good at. It's sniffing out a story. There's a lot more to this story than we're hearing. From afar, it looks to me like he's not all that motivated to play anymore, that he doesn't have the same desire that he had 6, 7, 8 years ago. He doesn't. It doesn't appear. This knee situation, I don't understand the condition where it never really recovers. He could play a game or two, and then it's all swelling again. And they didn't do the surgery. They didn't think it was necessary. I'm not sure if that was the right decision. He just doesn't look connected the way he did a few years ago.
He just doesn't look like he cares.
That's the thing. He's exuding this aura now of apathy, which we didn't see that before. More now than ever. George is constantly hurt too, right? The new kid, McCoy, looks fantastic. Maxey will be fine, but they're a borderline playoff team without George and Embiid. Borderline. And at 3-13, they're going to have to dig out of a hole just to do that.
No way.
I don't see it. Embiid, to me, if you ask me right now, have we seen his best days? I would say yes, that he's over the peak now and on the other side of the hill, heading down. And yeah, get what you can for him, but his value is not what it was 2 or 3 years ago when he still had all this baggage, all these problems, these injuries, these mental issues, these crazy things he was doing. You're right about one thing. They will not win a championship with Joel Embiid on the court. They will not win it. He doesn't have it inside. There's something missing that has never fully been there. And now is more obvious that he doesn't have it.
If I could ever just transform, great attitudes in women like a Jimmy Butler and put that in Embiid, he'd be a force. I'm going to ask you something here. Angelo, I vote on Heisman. I vote on every single award in college football. Not that college football is big in Philadelphia, obviously. I made a comment to somebody. I said, and I know Doug Peterson very well. I said, if that were me and I was Temple, I would offer Doug Peterson, when he gets canned, the head coaching job of Temple. That would give it a shot in the backside. People would want to go over to Lincoln Financial. There's a statue of the guy. People went like this. And then I go, who are they going to hire? The guy from Lehigh? You're not going to do any of that stuff. Angelo, should they shut the program down?
Yeah. If Doug took the job as coach at Temple, that would be horrible for Doug. It's just not a big program. It's not. It had its moments with. They had some good coaches with Matt Rule, guys like that, but they're not a Division I powerhouse. Doug, this is the great injustice of what we're witnessing now at the Eagles. If you actually had an opportunity, the way I did, to speak at length with Doug Peterson and Nick Sirianni, there is no way on this earth you would say that Sirianni could be a big winner in the NFL. And Peterson, he got 2 wins this year? He's
Something
2-9? Something like 2-9.
He's on a respirator there in Jacksonville right now.
Peterson, whatever's going on there, I can't tell you. But Peterson is a much better coach than Sirianni.
Superior.
And the records do not show that.
I know.
So here's what I got to say. Doug needs an opportunity at a program like he had here, and Nick needs the broom closet. And maybe I would bring Doug back next year and have Nick there in the closet if Doug needed to talk to somebody. Keep him in there and add a couple of brooms so when he can clean up.
Does Doug and the owner have a good relationship, in your opinion, where they can walk back over something like that? If that guy does another bonehead move, but in a critical position, would they ever contemplate something like that? Or is that just that yacht has sailed?
That yacht has sailed. Exactly. That $70 million yacht has sailed. It sailed because the owner, Jeff Lurie, has never been one to admit a mistake. And bringing anyone back like that would be admitting a mistake. So he won't. That would never happen. But I will say this. I got to believe that when that 4th and 3 thing came up on Sunday night, that both Roseman and Lurie were looking at each other going, how the hell are we doing this with that guy making these decisions?
The refs bailed them out.
They had to be. The refs must have felt bad for him and went, well, geez, if he thinks that slowly, let's help a little bit, right? We'll give him. Oh, you're good. You want the penalty now? All right, yeah, go ahead. Move it back 10 yards. Nick thought it over now. He sees the merit in this.
Wait a minute. There was a mistake, Angelo. He thought it over? I don't think so.
Merrill Reese needed a third of 1 second to know what the right thing was, and the head coach needed about 20 minutes.
Jesus criminy, man. Hey, what a great time with you. Hey, a great Christmas gift. Make sure you get the book, or you can get it on audio. You can go to his blog. Tell where the folks can find all that, Angelo, because, again, thank you so much during this holiday time for doing this.
AngeloCataldi.com. I write every week there, sometimes positive, oftentimes negative. And the book is called Loud, and it's available on Amazon and all of the things that Dan just said. And Dan, thank you so much for giving me this forum. It's really fun. I really enjoy it.
We absolutely kill it. By the way, you should see all the people at IP and 97.5 when you come on, man. They hate when you come on here, man, and give them their spin. They really do. That means this. That means I know I'm doing it right. Angelo, thank you.
All right, the Eagles, if the Eagles are unhappy, call me at home. I got time. I'll have a conversation with you. We'll talk about it.
Angelo, happy holidays, my friend.
Same to you, Dan. Thanks, buddy.
You got it. The great Angelo Cataldi. Make sure you guys do me a favor and hit that like button. Wait, let me read Xander's thing again. Great coach. Xander sees a great coach. We see buffoon. I mean, we see a buffoon. I don't know. Hey, by the way, again, I mean, maybe that just shows you how we see things compared to how we look at. Yeah, good decision making. Can you win in spite of your coach? Can you have a successful business? Yes, in spite of your owner. I love Angelo, but he's been wrong about every coach